It is always amazing to me that one person who actually gives a shit can do better work than like an entire giant corporate organization. And that's exactly what happened here. Ken Klimenstein is a great independent journalist. And he actually talks to people who are like sources on the ground and know shit and can give you important information. And like, here we are. So this is incredible. You have a bunch of people from within ICE and the Border Patrol, a bunch of feds here who basically Ken talked to, and they were like, man, this shit is all fucked up. Let me tell you. So let's break it down here. ICE unloads. Immigration officer speaks out. Quote, fuck this. Quote, the best they can do is shoot the guy in the back. That's not the voice of some liberal commentator. That's what a Homeland Security officer told me this weekend. One of over half a dozen who have reached out to express their alarm over the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis and beyond. I've listened to the stories and the beefs of immigration officers in Minneapolis across the country, and to a person, they all blame the shooter, one of their own. The major media is stuck on framing the killing of Alex Preddy as some national and partisan battle, highlighting Republicans breaking ranks, the NRA protesting, MAGA wavering, and Chuck Schumer doing whatever he's doing. But no one is really capturing what the federal law enforcement officers on the ground are thinking. The truth is that they're fed up and have been for weeks. They paint a picture that is more Police Academy or even Reno 911 than a Gestapo on the march. Yes, they agree that Washington is a huge problem and are uncomfortable with the mission creep that is taking them from actual immigration enforcement. But internally, theirs is also a story of gung-ho 19-year-olds, drunk stakeouts, and senior officers disappearing into meetings and all of a sudden needing time off. They are also frustrated with the narrative unfolding and the information war being waged from Washington, including the flamboyant defense of the shooting and other controversial moves on the ground. Quote, as much as I support this administration, there needs to be more common sense in situations like this, not a knee-jerk damage control narrative that does not line up with the evidence on video, when Border Patrol agents said in a private chat group that was shared with me. This individual was shot 8 to 9 times while unarmed. Quote, we can't always support what happens just because it's one of us, he adds. An ICE agent was even more critical. Yet another justified fatal shooting, 10 versus 1, and somehow they couldn't find a way to subdue the guy or use a less than lethal, the agent said. They all carry belts and vests with 9,000 pieces of equipment on them, and the best they can do is shoot a guy in the back. Overall, as someone who has been covering this for months, I'm struck by how angry Homeland Security officers are with their own agencies and their blunt dismissal of the Washington leadership. All of the immigration officers I interviewed for the story spoke on the condition of anonymity. Sagging morale and declining standards are a constant theme I picked up. Problems that these sources say have been festering for long before the deaths of Preddy and Renee Good, and ones that very much contributed to these outcomes. More than one ICE agent in particular complained about how Washington focuses on labeling protesters as impeding federal functions and thus breaking the law, and the vilification of Antifa and others labeled paid agitators, leftists, radicals, extremists, and terrorists is confusing the ranks while also distracting everyone from the immigration enforcement mission. Quote, I can go on, but overall, it's been a ridiculous experience, one ICE agent told me. He says that many agents on the ground are just going along with the expanded mission because they are more interested in their away-from-home per diem pay and collecting overtime than whatever the mission is. Jesus Christ. Others express the cynicism typical of everyone who toils at the bottom of any bureaucratic food chain, poo-pooing rapid expansion of the ICE army and shaking their heads over the ridiculous budget increases being fought for in Washington that will have no impact where they work. The brand new agents are idiots. An experienced ICE agent assigned to Homeland Security investigations told me. This same sentiment was echoed by virtually everyone I talked to, with several conveying the view that Preddy's death was the fault of some skittish young recruit who panicked when he heard the word gun, if that's what happened. So let me just pause here to point out, there was a video that some right-winger posted, some total fucking moron posted, and it was like an ICE mission that happened, I believe it was under Obama, and CNN did the ride-along, and it was really interesting because, like, they clearly were better trained than this crop is. They acted more like experienced and seasoned officers. They arrested somebody that they made a point of trying to do it not at a time that would make a big scene and like going to their job or going to a school or going. No, they were like, it was like at 6 o'clock in the morning when they walked outside of their door, nobody else was around. So they get the guy, they arrest him, they put him in the car. The guy says, actually, you know, who you're looking for is my brother. As soon as they hear that, they release that guy. They find the guy, they arrest him. And in this instance, it was a guy who's both an undocumented immigrant and he was a violent criminal and he had a violent crime on his record. But it was like they took you step by step and it was pretty professional. And there was like an actual judicial warrant for the guy's arrest, not an administrative warrant. And so they posted that and they thought like, look at what ICE used to do under Democrats. Democrats had no problems with this when it was happening under a Democrat. And Ryan Grimm quote tweeted it. It was basically like, are you fucking stupid? How do you not see the colossal difference between what they're doing now and what this is? Like, I honestly believe if you just had immigration enforcement that only actually went after undocumented immigrants who are also violent criminals, there wouldn't be a single fucking protest in the country. Maybe you'd have like 5% of the country go, I disagree with that because I want even them to be able to stay here. But like over 80% would be fine with it and there'd be no protest or anything like that, right? And so my guess is some of those agents from like that era are looking at these new ones and they're going, okay, this guy fucking beat his wife and it's on his record. This guy's 300 pounds. This guy is affiliated with the Proud Boys or whatever fucking extremist white nationalist group. You know, this guy is such a MAGA freak and diehard, but he's got the IQ of a stapler. Like, I think a lot of these old school guys, and that's not to glorify the old school ones too much, because I'm sure there were also potential, political extremists from the very beginning, right? But it's definitely gotten more extreme. It's definitely been heightened. It's definitely because of Trump's insanity and Stephen Miller's insanity, and like they're doing everything but goose stepping and zig heiling. And so the people who are signing up now, like they are actually looking for a badge and a gun and impunity, and they're looking to fuck up liberals and leftists and immigrants and LGBTQ people. Like that's the point. And so anybody who was in from the beginning looks at this like, really? Is this what we're doing now? And so I can see the tug of war here. Now, having said that, this is also a little bit of ass covering, isn't it? Because now, I'm sorry, you guys are 100% the Gestapo. That's what you are. So do I care that much to hear from the moderate wing of the Gestapo? Like, not really. What you should do is, yes, you can stay embedded. You should fucking record everything secretly, right? You should keep a fucking notebook of all the shit you know, and then when the time comes, we will rely on you when we have our big cases to take these motherfuckers down. You see what I'm saying? Like that's, you want to redeem yourself? That's how you redeem yourself. Okay? All right, let's continue. Even one of the new ICE recruits agreed with the experienced agent's low assessment of the Trump freshman class. A lot of the guys, he said, referring to the new ICE recruits he worked alongside, are honestly pretty sketchy. No shit. The new ICE officer continued, I thought federal agents were supposed to be clean cut, but some of them pass around a flask as we are watching a suspect, observing as well that the new guys have some weird tattoos. The fact that they're passing around a flask, bro, that is fucking wild. I was going to say it's one of the only substances that's socially acceptable to have in a situation like this, but it's not. It's not even socially acceptable. A cigarette is socially acceptable. Hitting a vape is socially acceptable. Having an energy drink is socially acceptable. It's not socially acceptable to hit a flask. In the same way, like that'd be like if an ICE agent took out a crack pipe. I'm sure there's at least one out there. Honestly, there's probably like hundreds out there. Some of them are doing lines. I'm sure of it. Those tattoos, I'm told, are symbolic of the fact that the new recruits tend to be more ideologically motivated than those of the past. That's what we were just talking about. This problem is compounded by the fact, raised by several officers, that ICE is relying on volunteers to go to Minneapolis and other Democratic cities on these temporary deployments. This tends to favor new recruits and those who are chasing overtime pay. It is unclear how these task forces are organized in cities like Minneapolis, or indeed who is in charge and in control. But those who I interviewed agree that the tide is turning, that some agencies like the FBI are increasingly no-shows in the field, and others are expressing a reluctance to participate in non-immigration missions. Last I heard, says one ICE officer, FBI didn't want to help us out much anymore, especially Minneapolis, due to the bad press. So even Kash Patel's FBI is going, you know what? That doesn't look good, bro. That does not look good. Another branch of ICE enforcement and removal operations, ERO, is being squeezed heavily to serve on the streets against protesters, the officer says, adding that lots of guys are totally exhausted out there with a lot of pressure on them to conduct non-immigration missions. But here's the thing. They have no legal authority to do that. Yes, Stephen Miller and Donald Trump might be telling you to do that, but their word is not law. You have no actual authority to do these things. And I think the old school guys kind of know that a little bit. And the new school guys are, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, why not? Let's go. Despite the bravado of an uncompromising operation and the absolute support Washington expresses for the shooters, there are signs that the Trump administration is growing worried about the public and bipartisan backlash. President Trump posted an unusually conciliatory statement on Truth Social. Governor Tim Walz called me with a request to work together with respect to Minnesota, the Post reads. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. But again, guys, this is just a head fake. Don't fall for it. All right, so now this part gets crazy. Ready for this? Quote, threat briefings are now focusing on retaliatory threats, and now they're scheduling more with contracted DHS attorneys tomorrow and the next day, one officer told me this weekend. I know managers got called into meetings all night. As the meetings are held, the ICE agents and others I've talked to say the government versus terrorist narrative is having a tangible and negative impact on the ground. In other words, even the fucking ICE Gestapo thugs on the ground hear the rhetoric from Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, and they go, that's a little heavy-handed, right? I mean, that's a little heavy-handed, isn't it? That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. So there's cracks in the foundation of this thing. Quote, lots of people are freaking out, one ICE agent told me. Yeah, maybe because you guys are waging war against Americans. You're waging war against Americans. You're claiming we're the most American, we're the most patriotic, and you're taking a diarrhea dookie on the Constitution, and you're waging war against Americans. Quote, agents are getting seriously paranoid. Perhaps they should be because of what they're doing. Afraid of being targeted by retaliators. Several agents described receiving briefings about retaliatory threats to ICE inspired by the Minneapolis shooting. Guys take it really serious, like we are fighting insurgents as if Minneapolis is Baghdad, an ICE officer said. Holy shit. Though all the federal agents I've spoken to this weekend support immigration enforcement, they indeed see the Minneapolis operation as something else entirely, an open-ended counterinsurgency in a faraway land and under an out-of-touch leadership in Washington, more concerned with optics than immigration. Quote, this is a no-win situation for agents on the ground or immigration enforcement overall. Oh, boo-hoo, the fucking Gestapo are sad, a Border Patrol agent said in the private group chat shared with me. He closed on a plaintive note. I think it's time to pull out of Minnesota. That battle is lost. Fuck this, a senior ICE officer said about the shooting of Preddy. Honestly, my biggest takeaway from this is protest work. Protest work. There's so many people out there in the streets. They had the general strike the other day. It was such a thing to behold. And like, there's so much energy. There's so much passion. There's so many protesters out there. There's so many people protecting Minnesota. There's so many observers that like you have now made it so their morale is non-existent. The stuff at the hotel, they can't fucking sleep because of the noise that the protesters are making outside. The hotel doesn't fucking want them there. Like, they're miserable, right? And so like, those tactics fucking worked. So if anything, this should put wind in the sails of the protesters, right? And like I said, I have zero fucking sympathy for any of these, even the moderate Gestapo. I have zero fucking sympathy for them. But if they want to earn our respect, what they do is, like I said, meticulously detail everything so that when we have our mass trials, you can give us all the information that will be used, right? And clearly, Ken Klimenstein knows some people who can do that and potentially are doing that. So I actually do kind of like to hear their perspective. But that being said, I think even they have to know on some level, like, all this, like, we don't know what to do. We're caught between a rock and a hard place. Like, fucking shut the fuck upsville is what you should do. That's where you should visit. Because, my concern is with the protesters, and I hope they're all right. Alex Preddy's family, fucking Renee Good's family. Like, those are the real victims here. Let's not get it twisted.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.